More and more divers are using their smartphone to capture their underwater adventures, and therefore there is a variety of different companies producing housings for your smartphone. In today's video, we'll look at and review the HotDive smartphone housing. Coming up. Hi and welcome back to the Underwater Filmmaking School and today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If you're new here, my name is Matthias. I'm an underwater cinematographer and filmmaker based in Zurich, Switzerland. And here on this channel we talk about anything to do with underwater videography and underwater filmmaking, with the aim of making you a better underwater filmmaker and helping you capture your underwater adventures in the best possible way. Now, in today's video, we'll look at the smartphone housing made by the company HotDive. What is it exactly? It is, as the name suggests, a housing for your smartphone. It will work with any iPhone model and with most Android models as well. It is built from aluminium, mostly at least, and is depth rated down to a depth of 80 meters, which is probably way more than any of us will ever go to. It works with a separate app that you have to install onto your smartphone and then connect to the housing itself to be able to control the camera functions of your phone. Now, the special thing about this housing is that it does come with a depth and a temperature sensor. Thus, it has a dive computer integrated into it as well. This applies to the Pro model. There's two models. There's the Pro model, which actually has the depth and temperature sensor and therefore also the dive computer function integrated, and there is also the normal model, which does not have that depth and temperature sensor integrated into it. It also comes with a vacuum system, and you can choose in between different modes when taking it underwater. You can choose in between a diving mode and a scuba diving mode, I better say, and a free diving mode. You can add lenses, wet lenses, onto the housing. There is specific macro and wide angle lenses, which I did not have for my testing and my review, so I can't really say anything about these lenses, but there is the option of adding extra wet lenses onto the rig. Price-wise, you're looking at the base model that doesn't have a depth and temperature sensor in it and therefore no computer available either. You're looking there at $299, and for the Pro model, having the sensors and therefore also the dive computer option, you're looking at $349. The HotDive smartphone housing comes in a nice little travel pouch like this one here, which you can just store your smartphone housing within it and transport it on your dive adventures very securely and easily. Also, you'll get some accessories that come with the smartphone housing. You got a little package here, you've got a charging cable, you've got a lanyard that comes with it. There is some silicone grease for your O-ring, there is a spare O-ring, and there is also a little microfiber cloth that comes with it. That's what's all included when you get the HotDive smartphone housing. Enough of the specs for now, let's get into the review section of this video, and let me tell you what I did like about the housing, what I didn't like about the housing, and how I experienced the housing when being used underwater. Now, I had this housing with me on our recent production trip back in November last year, when we spent a good week in Egypt and we were producing content for new online classes that will be coming out soon. The housing, we took it on a couple of dives and tested out a few of the functions. I have to be honest, I didn't have an immense amount of time to test out everything in detail, but I think I got a good grasp of what this housing is capable of doing and how well it handles underwater. So let's talk about the build quality first of all. Now the housing itself is made out of about 80% aluminium, which is the whole entire front part, the main part of the housing, and then you've got about 20%, which is the back side, the lid here that opens up for you to be able to place your phone inside. That's made out of plastic. The housing seems very sturdy and robust. It is quite heavy, which is a good thing in my opinion, and it sits quite well in your hands, even when wearing gloves underwater. It seems like the housing is built in a very robust and sturdy way, and I think that it can handle quite a bit of abuse. It definitely doesn't seem like if you drop it once it's gonna break right away like some of the other plastic housings that are out on the market. So that's definitely a good thing. Let's look at the handling next, and I basically just want to take you through how you set up the housing or your phone inside the housing before you take it down underwater. Now, what you need to do obviously is open up the casing first, and after you've installed the app on your phone, you can then just open up the app, turn on the housing, and then once that's done and it has connected, you can then just put the phone inside your housing, close the housing up, and once you've done that, you will get a tiny little red light here. I don't know if you can really see that, but there's a little red light here. Once that's there, it means that the housing is closed, but the vacuum system is not activated yet. So you do need to take off the little cap that sits here on the vacuum valve, and then pressing the LED button for a couple of seconds. And now we've got our vacuum established. You can see we've got a green light now here, so the red light has changed to a green light. This all works fully automatic, so there's no need for pumping out the air by using like a manual pump like you have on other housings. This works all automatic, and as soon as that's done, you're basically ready to hit the water. Now on the housing itself, as I said, the handling of the housing, sort of the way it sits in your hands, is really nice. I really like that. It fits nice, or it feels nice and solid. And you've got a big nice shutter button right here at the top, and all the other buttons, they're at your fingertips right there for your right hand, and they work all very easily. You can get into the menu, and then basically inside the menu you can change all the parameters. So you can change, for example, here your white balance, and you can really adjust that to whichever white balance you want, or you can go and do it as a auto white balance. You can do the same with all the other settings that are in here. You can change your resolution. You can change whether or not you want to record RAW files when taking photos. It obviously doesn't work with the video section. And then it also gives you the option of switching in between the different cameras. Now it doesn't give you an option of switching in between the different lenses that your camera has, but you can quite easily switch in between video and photo mode, and you can also switch to the back camera, hello, of your phone. And this is actually quite useful if you want to record selfies underwater. You can do that using the back camera of your phone. You don't have to turn your phone around. I find that quite useful as a little sort of addition on the settings on this underwater housing. Other than that, what you can also do, if you've got the Pro version and you've got the depth and the temperature sensor in here, by pressing the autofocus button for a couple of seconds, it will enter the dive computer mode. And you've got your compass here, so depending on which way you turn, it will give you the heading down at the bottom. and it will also give you a depth rating and the temperature rating, your dive time, all that sort of stuff. So that's quite handy. If you want to have that on here, you can just quite quickly and easily access it while being underwater. Yeah, if you want to get back to taking photos, just press the shutter once and you're back in your photo or video mode, the mode that you left last. Right, what else? Well, it also has a fill light, a little LED built into the housing right here, which you can turn on by pressing the LED button there. It goes in two different intensities. It is a nice feature in my opinion. There we go, a nice feature in my opinion that will just make it possible for you to bring a little bit more light into your scenes, but you have to be fairly close to your object for that light to have any impact on it. I find it to be quite weak. I couldn't really find any information on how many lumens that light really outputs. If any one of you guys have that information, feel free to put it down in the comment section. I couldn't find it, but it is definitely a nice thing to have. On the other hand, it's just not powerful enough to sort of completely forget about external lights that you might want to bring with you. So having talked about the LED light, let's move on and talk about the things that I like, the features that I like in the HotDive smartphone housing. Well, I do really like that it's built very robust, and I have the feeling that it is gonna last for quite some time, even if being used on a very regular basis. I love how easy it is to use. The buttons are laid out in a very good position, and the pressure point of the buttons is very comfortable to be used, in my opinion. I think you can get to all the major functions quite easily and quickly, and you can set up your phone or the camera app quite easily to fit your requirements and your needs. What I also like a lot is that it has a vacuum system, which gives you the added security of actually having a sealed camera or a sealed housing before you take your camera underwater. Also, I do like a lot that it does work on a battery, on an integrated battery pack that you can just charge using a USB Type-C connector. So you don't end up changing replaceable batteries all the time to make sure that your housing has power. And last but not least, I do think that the LED that is integrated into the housing is a nice little touch, even though I don't think it replaces a proper underwater video light. Looking at the things that I don't like about this housing, there's actually not a lot of these things, but one of them definitely is the lack of ability to choose the individual lenses that are built into your smartphone housing. With other housing manufacturers, you can actually choose which lens you want to use for which shooting scenario underwater. This does not really work with the HotDive smartphone housing. So you basically start with the main lens of your smartphone, and that's basically it. You can't really change to any other lens, which is a pity if you're using a modern smartphone that has a ultra wide lens in there, that has a telephoto lens in there, that has a normal wide lens in there. Being able to switch in between those lenses would make it a lot more versatile to use. Having said that though, they do have sort of a zoom function integrated into the housing, and you can zoom in quite a bit, but it is a digital zoom. And if you go all the way to the maximum zoom in capacity, you can see that the image turns out to be very grainy, and it is at the same time very difficult to keep the camera and the image stable and get a good looking shot that way. So that's not really an option for me to use instead of being able to use, for example, a telephoto lens of my iPhone 13 Pro. Another thing I need to mention here in the I don't like it section is that I think that the LED light that is integrated in the housing, as I said before, is a nice addition, but if you use that regularly, you will actually find that it drains the battery of the housing quite quickly, especially if you use it on the higher setting, like the maximum setting, and if you enter the water with your housing's battery not being fully charged. It happened to me a couple times that I was closing in on an object and I was turning on the LED light, wanting to get some light onto that object, but my housing, the battery of my housing was already sort of lowerish, and then I only got a couple of seconds of light output from the LED, and then it turned itself on to preserve power and not to lose all the power by giving the power all to the LED light, which makes sense of course, but is a little annoying because, well, in that case you just can't really use the light at all in such a situation. And last but not least, one thing that I really don't like about the HotDive smartphone housing is that it does not come with a red filter. And you'll see when you start taking images, especially footage further down in deeper depths, let's say below the 10-meter mark, you'll see that your footage will most likely turn out to be rather bluish or greenish, and that a lot of the red color will not be present anymore, which is quite normal. That's what happens when you go deeper down and you just simply lose that red color due to the depth and the light not being able to penetrate all the way down there. So having a red filter would be very useful, like other smartphone housings have as a standard sort of equipment. They come with a red filter. That would actually be a really cool addition to the HotDive smartphone diving, and I think it would at the same time increase the quality of the footage coming out of any smartphone that you place inside that housing. So before we get into a quick summary and conclusion of my thoughts about the HotDive smartphone housing, let's have a quick look at some of the footage that I was able to capture with the HotDive smartphone housing, or better said, with the iPhone 13 Pro in the HotDive smartphone housing. Enjoy! How do you like this? Well, let's have a quick look at my final summary and my final conclusions for the HotDive smartphone housing. Personally, I think it is a well-produced quality product that will give you a lot of joy and pleasure when using it underwater with any type of smartphone. There is obviously a couple of drawbacks, but there also is some quite nice features in this product, and I do think that the benefits and the good features in this product overweight the sort of the lack of capability, especially when it comes to using all the different lenses of your smartphone and the lack of a red filter. It is a very easily used product. It's basically like plug and play. You just place your iPhone or your smartphone in there and you're ready to take it underwater. It really works very flawlessly. And there you have it. A quick review and my personal opinion about the HotDive smartphone housing. Have you guys tried that housing before? Have you collected any experience with it? If so, let me know down in the comment section below. I will also put a link to the housing down in the video description below. So if you do feel like checking that housing out, feel free to check out the link and see whether or not this housing is something for you. And as always, if you do want to get better at filming underwater and capturing your underwater adventures, do consider my online underwater videography course, Learn to Film Underwater, which I will also link down in the video description. Thank you so much for your time. As always, I hope this video was useful to you and you got something out of it. And if that's the case, please do not forget to hit the like button and also consider subscribing to the channel so you're not missing out on any future videos that will be uploaded here on this space. Thanks again for your time, happy bubbles, have fun capturing your underwater adventures, and I will see you in the next video.